Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from November 20th to the 26th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. And there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. Try to think of my videos as a time capsule. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the US cannabis industry, identify top US MSOs or Canadian LPs that you think will be worth a lot more in the future than they are now based on their current market caps, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. And of course, this is not advice, but I've seen it happen in the past. Once the flip switches, a lot of wealth is created, and so you might as well learn how to take advantage to help yourself, your family, and your community going forward. But again, this is not advice. Plan accordingly for your own situation. But with that, we start with a hilarious reminder of what happens when you launch terrible cannabis policy versus when you launch excellent cannabis policy. As New York cannabis sales eclipse 100 million, that's New York doing 100 million finally, as Missouri passes 1 billion in 2023 alone since launching. And when did Missouri launch? I forget exactly when, but hilarious as it exposes the Empire State's regulated adult use retail farce for what it is. A socialist experiment unfortunately gone wrong because of very incompetent politicians and members of the Office of New York Cannabis Management. They've struggled to pick up steam with a mere 27 legal operating stores versus the 5,000 to 8,000 illegal ones. And imagine being one of these operators, going through all the legal hoops, only to not be able to make money because you can't be profitable when you're jumping through all the hoops. You might as well have been an illicit operator. So just fascinating to see how far we've come and how much of a joke this is. And so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just going to pause to read so that you can look through the data, at least for New York, because it's pathetic. And again, it's vindicating, but we don't want this to be the case for any of these social equity applicants that were lied to in New York either. But some more information here if you wanted to pause to read. Well, Missouri, of course, the main thing that we do want to look at, seeing retailers reported 833.4 million in adult use sales and 269 million in sales through October, passing the 1.1 billion mark so far in 2023, according to the Department of Health. And this is how you do it right. And so we love this. Every new state should try and follow what Missouri did, and not in any sort of way what New York did. So just wanted to bring you down to the juice, though. So we love to see, if given the opportunity, Americans want to vote for legal cannabis with their dollars, and the data doesn't lie. And so keep doing what you're doing, Missouri. Maryland, another one that is out the gate on fire, and we're loving that. So full links in the comments, but just wanted to share that quickly, and I invite you to pause to read to go through. Now, thank you, the Weed CFO, for putting together some of these little snippets. It's here for you to take a look at. October cannabis sales retail all in one spreadsheet. October was relatively flat for September. It looks like an overall increase in sales from October last year, but entirely due to Michigan. So some things Michigan's doing really well also, and we'll see that in the next one too. I don't work in Michigan, so not sure what's going on there. Strong price compression, lower prices, but apparently way more sales volume, which is fascinating. So looking at each state, we can see the most recent state, October 2023, or the most recent month, sorry, and then compare that to September 2023, and we can see which states grew and which ones didn't. And so Colorado, the usual suspect, obviously they didn't see as much growth. We're expecting California not to either, but they still saw some growth just because Colorado is so mature. Mind you, Florida, medical only, still not adult use. Once that's adult use, that's going to be massive. Oregon, one of the more mature markets as well. And then just comparing, I guess, with October 2022, some down quite a bit, some up quite a bit, especially Michigan. New Jersey, we love to see. New Jersey open more stores. Pennsylvania, go adult use as well. That will be huge. And so link in the comments if you want to go through that. While he shared this other one, here are the October numbers by unit sales. And so by the amount of items being sold, Michigan sold 20% more units than California. Does anyone live in Michigan and might have any idea as to how they're doing this or what's making their market so successful at increasing the volume of sales? I have a feeling that it's just the lack of, it's the opposite of the limited license structure, right? So they gave as many licenses out to people that wanted. I think that has something to do with it, but let me know in the comments if you happen to know better. All that to highlight, if we look at unit sales, again, this month, October 2023, compared to last month of September 2023, and then October of last year. Nice to see how many markets are up in units month over month. Again, New Jersey, open more stores, you'll have more units sold out. But then overall, year over year, massive number of units. Michigan, 52%. How the hell are they doing that? So very fascinating. Again, these links are in the description if you want to check those out. Now, from Pablo, thank you. As ZNA published today on the MSO upside from states going rec, including Florida, Minnesota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and now possibly Virginia. We left New York out of this analysis, given the lingering uncertainty for MSO incumbents. Unfortunately, we have to write off New York for now, but this is America, and I'm sure they'll bounce back at some point. We just need to get those idiots out of power. So thank you, Pablo, for sharing your free research with us. This link will be in the comments, but just wanted to give you a little sneak peek. 22 pages as of November 21st, and I imagine most of the data is as up-to-date as possible with all the Q3 earnings. And so again, take these with a grain of salt. Pablo's been right in the past, but the most up-to-date information we really have to try and differentiate between the MSOs and possibly make some picks. And so again, think of what will happen once 280E is gone and these companies get to keep that much more profit. And so I do look forward to going through this later today. And so with that, from Jesse Redmond, just a reminder, Happy Green Wednesday, which was Wednesday this past week. This is the third biggest cannabis sales day of the year behind 420 and Black Friday, which was yesterday. So hopefully we'll see a bit of an increase either in units sold or sales once we see November's data in early December, before usually a big jump up in December to end the year. But with that, just wanted to give everyone, or wish everyone, my viewers that are American, a very happy Thanksgiving long weekend, and I hope you continue celebrating. And you get to enjoy this video to round it all off after the celebrations continue. And we head into the next week of purgatory waiting for some sort of action from government. But with that, from Tom Angle, just wanted to share this interesting update out of a state just deciding to do something differently and maybe accidentally choosing a huge public health victory. So the Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection issued bulletins saying that cannabis dispensaries are allowed to be open on Thanksgiving. I would agree with that because cannabis is medicine, but that liquor stores must close for the holiday. Now I can see people saying, oh, what the hell, this is so wrong. It's like, well, I mean, it's not like liquor stores are closed every day. You can just buy your liquor the day before. Fair enough. I'm just super curious to see if there would be any data actually collected over the long weekend to see whether, or even maybe just on Thanksgiving Day, but to see if impaired driving and car accidents actually went down because liquor stores were closed and cannabis was open. I'm just curious and thinking out loud. So let me know what you think in the comments. But hey, just buy your liquor beforehand, be prepared, and at least if you need more cannabis, you can go and get that because it is medicine and far safer than alcohol, that's for sure. And so with that, just wanted to share this study on top of that because it kind of jumps off that last point. Study, legal cannabis has an increased fatal car crashes. And so, hey, if you actually close liquor stores for a day, allow cannabis stores to be open, is that going to have an effect? I would love to know, but just wanted to share this study as this was a recent statistical analysis from Quartz Advisors found that traffic fatalities declined or remained constant after states adopted rec cannabis laws. What do you know? More studies proving that when you legalize cannabis, alcohol or, impaired driving and all that actually goes down. We love to see it. So I've got a lot of studies. I'm not going to get too deep into all of them, but I'm just going to highlight where the study came from and kind of the main point. But if you want to go through the rest of it, full link is in the comments, and this is from leafly.com, of course. Well, we've got, okay, so yeah, I wanted to share this one before we get into some of the other studies, just to highlight the ridiculousness of this government that follows political science and not actually science. But they're on the cusp of maybe following actual science for once, as federal government continues to withhold key cannabis scheduling recommendation letter, despite freedom of information requests and lawsuits. And so while I remain cautiously optimistic because I have time and I stand by my skin in the game, it's fucking troubling to think that after nearly 3 months, Health and Human Services still has not confirmed whether it's actually following the science or just the political science. And that's so embarrassing, and yet another slap in the face after how many slaps in the face from the Biden admin for the last 3 years, as they've proven they'd rather follow the political science, identity politics, and play that bullshit than actually work for the American people. And so it is asinine, it's profoundly disappointing. Why is this redacted? It's not confidential. And so this is very troubling. We've come this far, though. I'm still hopeful based on the momentum and the fact that states' rights supersedes federal rights. And so while there's still certainly time from now until the end of the year for that first announcement and then the eventual second announcement for final ruling of actual rescheduling to Schedule 3 next year, it's hard to think that the Biden admin is going to do anything right after doing so much continuously wrong for so fucking long. And so since no one in the government is going to present the science to you, it's got to be me. So from PubMed, some more of the scientific findings about cannabis from November 17th, 2023. I'm not going to bother trying to read the title because I'll likely butcher it. But from the abstract, this little snippet right here, proving why we should have descheduled a long, long time ago, is cannabinoids such as THC. You mean the same compound that's demonized for turning your brain to mush, making people dumb, and not being useful to the human body at all, exerted anti-tumor effects by inhibiting tumor cell proliferation or inducing apoptosis. And is that why politicians try to demonize this so much? Because it saves lives? Not ideal. And so with that, on to marijuana moment. People with anxiety report better sleep on days they use cannabis compared to alcohol or nothing at all. Study finds We'd love to hear that. And so, again, not going to spend too much time on each of these, but this study published in the journal Drug and Alcohol Review, researchers at the University of Colorado, Colorado State University, and University of Haifa analyzed the subjective sleep quality of 347 people who reported using cannabis to treat anxiety. And they wanted to understand the different ways sleep was affected by cannabis, alcohol, and neither. And to that end, people participating in the study were asked to fill out the survey for 30 days, recounting their substance use and subjective sleep experience the night prior. Researchers compared outcomes from non-use days, cannabis-only days, alcohol-only days, and co-use days. And what did they find? Compared to non-use, participants reported better sleep after cannabis use only and after co-use, but not after alcohol use only. Interesting. So you can pause to read otherwise more information in the comments from that link. While we got this one from Normal, study, cannabis use associated with improved symptoms, better sleep in patients suffering from post-traumatic stress. And so this is as of November 21st, which looked at observational data published in the journal Medical Cannabis and Cannabinoids based on a team from the University of Florida at Gainesville assessing cannabis efficacy in a cohort of just 15 patients with PTSD. And you're going to say, oh, that's a small sample size. We can't even gauge, a general consensus from that. Yeah, you might be right. And the reason they can only do 15 patients is because cannabis is stuck in the Schedule 1. We needed it out of there to actually do real studies, right? But the main thing study authors concluded, our primary findings were that individuals with PTSD reported improvements in overall symptoms severity 30 and 70 days after initiating medical cannabis. Boom. Give them access to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative already. And so with that, marijuana moment teens are not more likely to use cannabis after legalization, study finds. A study of high school students in Massachusetts found that youth were no more likely to use cannabis after legalization, though more students perceived their parents as cannabis consumers after the policy change. Fair enough. And if the parents can communicate with their kids the truth about the plant and why they use it and just be honest, wow, we're going to have a lot more healthy parent-and-kid relationships in Massachusetts. And I think that's probably a good thing. And so more information here if you wanted to pause to read. Well, I actually have another link about this study, which came out of the University of Massachusetts Amherst. So just another link looking at the same thing. Study finds high school students no more likely. Just another resource if you wanted to go through it and read a little bit deeper. Full link in the comments. While this one touches off a study I shared a few weeks back, but read it and weep. Cannabis use linked to enhanced empathy and brain connectivity. As a cannabis user, this is likely very true because I know when I smoke, I feel more empathy towards other people. And one of the reasons why I mix it into my life. It doesn't harm me in any way. As a groundbreaking study published on November 8th, 2023, researchers have revealed intriguing connections between regular cannabis use and enhanced empathic abilities. The study, led by Victor E. Olalde-Mathieu and Daniel Adelano Barbosa, delves deeper into the ACC, a brain region pivotal in empathy, and how it's affected by cannabis consumption. And so just a cool article that kind of breaks it down into sections and worth a read if you maybe missed my video from a few weeks back that shared it, or if you just wanted to learn more. Full link in the comments. Well, this might be the last one yet. Marijuana moment. Cannabis and opioids are equally efficacious in reducing pain, with cannabis offering additional holistic benefits, study shows. And so this one, medical cannabis and opioids are equally efficacious at mitigating pain intensity in patients with chronic pain, according to this new study in the Journal of Cannabis Research. But cannabis also provided more holistic relief, such as improving sleep, focus, and emotional well-being, and probably just making the pain a bit more bearable without the side effects of grogginess, being sleepy, having no energy, and all that. Now, again, I don't know because I've never taken opioids. I've just chosen not to, and cannabis has always worked for me, so I've just always stuck with what worked. Because, yeah, fuck yeah. And cannabis happened to legalize so I can get it without having to worry about being arrested or going to jail, which no one should have to worry about, right? But more information here if you guys wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, grab the full link. But happy to share with you the actual scientific findings of what we do know based on what we can study, despite cannabis being stuck in the Schedule 1 where it never belonged in the first place. My bad, one more study. Washington State study demonstrates the tangible benefit of cannabis for sleep. Another different study. Washington State University studied apparently over 1,200 cannabis users, so at least this is a larger sample size, sought to unravel not only the prevalence of cannabis use, and what did they end up finding? The unexpected findings, they're not that unexpected if you use cannabis for sleep, right? But while the notion of using cannabis to induce sleep might not be groundbreaking, the researchers aimed to deepen their understanding. Surprisingly, the participants reported waking up feeling more refreshed and experiencing fewer side effects when using cannabis compared to conventional sleep aids. That's not a revelation. It's just common sense. And so, anyways, findings here, more in the comments if you wanted to go through the whole thing. But they're unexpected findings to people that I guess have been living in a hole or with their head in the sand. And so with that, from MSOS, sharing this timely interview with Advisor Shares and Dan Aarons. Now, I'm not going to share the video because it's just more speculation, and I can't share any more of that at this time until we just get a fucking announcement. But from this video. You can grab the link in the comments. It'll be there. MSOS at 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Dan discusses DEA acceptance at length. Thanks, Dan. Here's just one snip. A worry of mine. There's talk with people that I talk to that maybe we're having a circular conversation. You know, talking to the same people and getting the same information. I mean, here's the thing. The HHS department did send a letter to the DEA, but we don't know what's on that letter. And if we can gauge anything based on the last 3 years, it sucks, but it seems to be true based on what we've seen and how we've been misled and lied to, that they might follow the political science and not the science. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I want to be so wrong. But anyways, this link will be in the comments if you want to go through that. We've got a few articles to further expose just how wrong the U.S. government is on this issue. Cannabis redraws U.S.'s 2024 electoral map, because everywhere it gets put on the ballot, it usually wins by a landslide. And so just highlighting, with Ohio's law going in effect, 53% of the population now have legal cannabis, since Ohio, the 24th state, flipped over, which is huge. And then sales will start, or not sales, but you can start to grow and possess legally December 7th. Less than 2 weeks away. Support for cannabis legalization has reached a majority across parties, obviously. And I mean, it should be much higher for Republicans who believe in personal freedom and personal choice. And then in recent years, support for rec cannabis has far outperformed Democratic vote margins, whatever that means. And so full link in the comments if you want to go through that. Well, another one from Stupid Dope, not the best title for publication, but record 70% of Americans say yes to legalizing cannabis, a new high. And it's just one of the American ideals, personal freedoms, personal choice. There's no reason for a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative that's healthier than alcohol and tobacco not to be legally regulated and available for purchase at this point. It's just fucking nonsense. And so, more here at all. If you want to pause to read it and weep. The reality, or at least the data of the American people doesn't lie. We just need to start seeing the American people act like they give a shit about it, and hopefully we'll get there if we get some bogus ruling that cannabis should not be rescheduled. But with that, from Anders, CPA and Advisors, I just found this and figured I would share it as a resource for anyone interested. From November 13th, it's a bit older, but federal cannabis rescheduling, how to prepare financially for an uncertain timeline. Bit of a paradox in itself, but I did want to show you one good snippet here. As most dramatically, there's the sharp decrease in effective federal tax rate once 280E is removed, whether that's from safer passing or whether that's from the announcement, and then the announcement actually going into effect Q2 of next year based on all the rumors we're hearing. All that to say, if we look at a sample forecast for a 12 million in revenue cannabis retailer, so think this is a tiny mom and pop cannabis retailer in a state, we can see the end of 280E would mean a 4 to 6 million increase in income after taxes over a 4-year period, allowing them to build cash from operations in year 1 rather than staying in the red until year 4. And so if this is the case for a $12 million tiny cannabis company, obviously extrapolate that, it'll be the same case for a large MSO. Highlighting that once 280E is gone, this move will allow more operators to stay in business, stop working for the federal government, finally work for themselves and their team and keep profits and give back to their team, hopefully. And those who are already achieving profitability will be able to shift into a higher gear and invest back in the business. And so this is kind of extrapolating, I guess, what a $12 million small cannabis operator would end up doing without 280E and what they could keep going forward. But I'll admit I don't fully understand this, so I'm not going to try and decipher it for you. Anyways, this link is in the comments if you want to go through it. Definitely a cool resource to go through. And his answer, wait and plan. Kind of like my answer. Again, time is on our side, folks. We're following the facts and the state-led growth story. It's just a matter of when, not if. Haven't said that one in a while. Well, this one from MSOS, he doesn't feel the different parts of the administration would come to different conclusions. He does not feel the DEA has any legal basis to not accept the recommendation. That is, unless it's not actually a recommendation, because we can't see what's there and redacted. And so just wanted to share this. This is a quote from H. Sklamberg, who I believe used to work for the DEA. And he was featured in a few Cannabis Business Times stories, I believe in maybe October, that I shared in my videos. Him saying that there's no reason the DEA is going to say no to an HHS recommendation to follow the science. Right, but we don't know if the HHS actually fucking recommended that. That's the scary part that we're realizing. We hope, right? But why is it redacted? All that to say is that this comes from a longer document trying to get an answer of what's coming, right? Now, this is from September 29th. All that to say, it has an interview with this guy, and this guy says this on page 3 of 5. So just wanted to share this for anyone interested in reading through it. Again, we don't know. It's out of our control. It will happen when it happens. And when it happens, it's going to be a glorious day for many. But just figured I would share that. All links in the comments. Well, from YCharts 420, the bigger bear in the industry, U.S. cannabis prices continue to increase. And obviously, he's surprised to share this, and we love the fact that this is the case, as it's up 3.3% this week, 5.8% month over month, and 10.4% year over year. And so we hope that these numbers continue to go up. And a bit more detail down here if you wanted to pause to read, but we'd love to see this after some trying 2.5, 3 years of prices going back up, then cannabis prices dipping down. But this industry, like many others, is cyclical, and we seem to be entering into maybe a new phase of the cycle. And so we love to see that. Well, from Champzilla, just highlighting the reality in Canada that when cannabis is legal, beer and wine sales take a hit. Now, yeah, the Canadian consumer, the average one is likely hurting, especially one with a bigger family, because how can you buy groceries for more than 2 people without breaking the bank? It's very sad, and just a cause of inflation and bad government spending and policy and handing money everywhere it doesn't need to be. Again, socialism, destroying essentially everything, but giving more power and creating a bigger and bigger government. Also saw a stat, 25% of Canadians work for the government. That's just disgusting. That should not be the case. We need more entrepreneurial-minded critical thinkers. But from Champsy, thank you for sharing. Bullish for cannabis thesis. What they don't share is the offset of likely a lot of this is going to cannabis. Now, ideally, you don't want to see beer and wine sales and cannabis sales all going down, and I do believe that cannabis sales, maybe there's a comment down here. Okay, last month, cannabis sales were down 4.9% last month, which, again, there's only 40 million people, and we have 1,000 cannabis stores now, so supply and demand, right? But this is just more of an indicator of Canada hurting because our government has driven our country into the ground over the last 8 years, and why we really need a drastic change and swing of the pendulum. But hey, at least cannabis is legal, and we can still buy it here and not go to jail for it. So step in the right direction for us, and America, please follow suit soon. But with that, from Cannavestments, updated 2023 year-to-date tax-adjusted operational cash flow and EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, conversion rates for major U.S. operators. And the good thing is, after Q3 to note, folks, while not universal, improvements in cash flow in 2023 has been a consistent trend as companies have cut costs and right-sized operations with both hands still tied behind their backs and no help with SAFER or anything like that. So think about that. Hey, this cannabis industry doing what no other industry can likely do with the government fucking whipping it constantly, but just highlighting that I think for each company, in Q1, Q2, and Q3, who brought in the most tax-adjusted cash flow versus who brought in the least. So very informative, actually, and thank you for doing this, Cannavestments. Well, tax-adjusted operational cash flow to a EBITDA conversion. And this obviously makes sense, being the best performing at the top and wow, the worst performing at the bottom. And so with that, this quarter, top 10 US MSOs by market cap beat revenue expectations by a little bit and adjusted EBITDA by this much. And so we'd love to see that improving despite, again, both hands tied behind their backs with 280E and still no safe. Unbelievable. But digging deeper, the top 5 operators beat revenue by 4.66% and adjusted EBITDA by 11.98%. We'd love to see that, led by Green Thumb, who, yet again, positive net income, positive free cash flow, hence making them the safest investment. Now, this is not advice, but for anyone new to this channel, that is why the top 5 operators are at least a more attractive investment. They have less room to fall and more room to gain once we finally get this announcement. Not advice again. While meanwhile, the tier 2s, which I've been building positions in because I want 10 baggers. I don't want 5 baggers. I want 10 baggers. Did not do that. Now, for anyone wondering, my logic behind that, I'm just a guy trying to share what I know. And again, this just highlights, if you're new to investing, this is why I recommend considering doing this. But I'm fully happy taking the risk investing in some of these companies because I want to own companies that go from 200 million market cap to 2 billion and then some, hopefully, because that's at least a 10 bagger and then hopefully more. That's what I want to get with Air and Cannabis. Versus Green Thumb, I don't know their market cap offhand, but let's say they're already at a $3 billion market cap. For them to go from 3 billion to 12 billion, that takes a lot of inflows, and that's only going to be a 4x your investment, right? So that's my logic there for anyone that wonders why I focus on the US and not Canadian LPs. Hey, if Canadian LPs were beating revenue and adjusted EBITDA by these numbers, I'd be recommending them too, but they're not. That's the reality. For anyone commenting saying, oh, you're not talking about Canadian LPs anymore, I'm going elsewhere. Fine, go for it if you want. But why do you think the tier 1s outperformed relative to consensus estimates? I'm going to say scale, more Maryland, better at settling expectations, probably better at cutting costs. But to highlight, top 10 average, tier 1 average, tier 2 average. But again, once 280E is gone, that's going to be a gold mine in my view. I could be wrong, but that's why I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Revenue and EBITDA surprised by October. Again, highlighting that these are the safer investments just based on their ability to do this. But investing in these, while they're much cheaper and smaller cap companies, will likely provide a bigger return eventually, once the rising tide lifts all ships. So just thinking out loud, let me know what you guys think in the comments. But with that, from MJ Biz Daily, as cannabis multi-state operators exit more states in latter half of 2023. Long story short, it's saying that Cresco is getting out of Arizona and that Trulieve is getting out of California. And so you can pause to read here if you'd like. But after years of rapid expansion, yes, reality does set in. And these Western markets seem to be tough, man. Cresco exiting Arizona and Maryland in recent months. This is so unfortunate. I wish I knew more details about that as well, but that's a massive missed opportunity. Jumping the gun there, while Trulieve divested 3 remaining California retail outlets and ceased operations in Massachusetts. And so shit happens as you move along, but thank God that there are many, many more states still to come online. That'll be Ohio, Minnesota, Florida, Pennsylvania, Virginia. Hopefully sooner than later. Full link in the comments if you want to go through that. While some state news out of Florida, we'd love to see the Orlando Sentinel. He's publishing this while we wait to hear back about the 2024 ballot. But giant Florida cannabis grow house set stage for rec pot. Basically just a write-up about Trulieve's massive grow house in Tallahassee. And so more here if you wanted to pause to read. That employs 400 plus workers. So yeah, why not have a legal industry providing legal jobs as opposed to just feeding the black market? But more here if you wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, grab the full link in the comments. Well, from Denis, Rudev, we got some updates from investment firms or some snippets that kind of summarize some news. So take these all with a grain of salt. But we might have a lot of news in one that you can read through as DEA missteps on cannabis firing, Jersey City cops against mayor's cannabis crackdown, and more. And so pause to read. This is from Benzinga Newswire, actually. So if you're interested. First one. Second one, DEA under fire, agencies cannabis-related firing. Yeah, because DEA, get with the times. Stop being such shitheads. Sarasota's cannabis citation system failing, less than 1 in 10 pays fines. Of course, Maryland County to allow cannabis facilities only. Other ban cannabis near schools and playgrounds. If you've got bars, why not have legal consumption lounges? It only makes sense. Fair enough. And so that is that for that story. While we got a bit more from Denis Rudev highlighting an ironic or at least a surprising development as South Dakota prepares second try for adult use from Benzinga. It's ironic because they successfully voted for it in 2020. And then Kristi, the governor, was like, no, the people are too dumb they don't know what they want, right? Which is, again, a massive violation of basic American principles, I would say. But the market has potential to reach over 50 billion size, growing organically with states legalizing and sector operations stabilizing gradually. And of course, this is not just South Dakota. This is once all the states eventually flip. But I was very surprised to see this because we know that Kristi shut it down last time, the Attorney General, but it seems to be the governor shut it down last time, but it seems to be the AG who's trying to go through the process again. So, interesting. Potential outcomes, national implications. They could become number 25. I wonder. We'll see how quickly they can get this done because, and this is just another article highlighting South Dakota proposed adult use legislation. And so, I guess, gives South Dakotans until November 27th to write in their thoughts. While they already did this in 2021. So try again. At least good to see another state potentially wanting what's best for everyone in their state than not. And so you can pause to read. Otherwise, full link in the comments. And I guess this is the document down here from the AG. But on top of that, we have other states that might be beating South Dakota to the punch, which we love to hear. So Hawaii Attorney General unveils draft cannabis legalization bill. So let's just say South Dakota became 25th. Hawaii became 26th before Florida becomes 27th, PA 28th, Virginia 29th. Minnesota's already legalized, so they wouldn't count, but they just need to launch that market. And so I'm just going to share this for now because it's really just talk, right? So I will update you if there's any progress on the Hawaii's AG actually getting this through their legislature, but seems like legislatures in the AG have signaled that 2024 will be the year that cannabis becomes legal for adult use in Hawaii. So if that's the case, I might need to plan a trip to Hawaii. With that, from Todd Harrison, pot or not, legalizing cannabis in Indiana. Apparently 85% of Hoosiers support legalization. Now there's a video. I'll put the video in the comments, but I'm not going to watch it because I'm sure this highlights the gist. Now, comment of the week. I got to highlight it. Jason, people in India. Of course, it's about Indiana. But people of India were smoking all the time until the British went over there in the 17th century. Yeah, maybe they were. But let's hope Hoosiers get the support they need and can turn this into reality sooner than later from their lawmakers who ought to work for them. While just an update, as Virginia Democrats look to legalizing cannabis sales. And so while there's no timeline on this, and it's an older one from last week, State Senator Adam Eben is now optimistic about the future of cannabis sales. With incoming Democratic majorities for both the Senate and the House, I'm hopeful we can get something to the governor's desk. and claims that the revenue possibilities will help the state. No doubt, this is why you want to launch a legal market to provide jobs, tax revenue, and all other benefits, as opposed to just, let's just decriminalize and let the black market run rampant and control the non-commercial market we're too lazy to write sound policy for, right? It's dumb. So no timeline on this, but love that to be the case, and let's just hope sooner than later we hear something out of Virginia. Well, big win for those in Minnesota who want a career in cannabis, as University of Minnesota launches Cannabis Research Center, a new institution dedicated to studying the effects of cannabis. And this will be a lot easier for them once we get that announcement or we actually see cannabis moved out of Schedule 1. But I guess I'm getting to a point where, I'll just believe it when I see it. Although I'm not losing hope, folks. I'm still very much invested. And, well, as you can see, as long as I still make these videos, I still think it's happening. And I'm going to be excited once it does, because we'll have this time capsule to look back on. And I'm sure we'll all get together at some point, or some of us, my viewers, will get together, celebrate. So the center, which was established as part of the University School of Public Health, which cannabis certainly has a big factor in improving, will work to assess the impact of cannabis legalization in Minnesota and advise policymakers as they establish regulations and best practices in the state. So you can pause to read for a bit more info. I guess it starts with a $2.5 million appropriation fund to the center. It's going to hire like 10 people maybe. Not even, if it's got to pay for everything else too. All that to say, though, assessing the impact of cannabis, more here if you wanted to pause to read the details of what this new facility should do. Well, we did get the surprising update out of Colombia, but again, we'll believe it when we see something actually happen as opposed to the news. But happy to share this update as Colombia Senate Committee approves cannabis legalization bill. While it had stalled there for a while, hey, Mexico, where you at, fuckers? Come on, get back in the game. Sending it to a floor vote next week. And so I will update you if this floor vote is successful, but good to see Colombia finally keeping their word and putting their money where their mouth is. And so you can pause to read a little bit of details here, a little more here if you want in Espanol. Full link in the comments. While interesting news out of Japan as they take major steps towards cannabis reform. Unexpected out of the Far East, but we love to see it as in late October 2023, the Japanese government approved a bill seeking to amend its now 75-year-old Cannabis Control Act, seeing it renamed to the Law Concerning Regulation of the Cultivation of Cannabis Plants. And so with this bill now being passed in the House of Representatives November 14th, businesses and investors alike are now looking towards the market as a significant opportunity for the region. And so the amendment was approved on October 14th, the government stating its intentions to enact the amendment within a year. And so I believe this would, under the current legislation, pharmaceuticals manufactured from cannabis can only be used in clinical trials, not in medical settings. So still only clinical trials. But according to Ms. Yoshida, the revision will open up the possibility of medical cannabis market in Japan. So think about a year from now, it could open up the possibility based on the data they gather, marking a significant shift in the attitudes towards cannabis. Imagine by 2025, Japan has a medical cannabis market. It'd be fascinating. And of course, we know CBD and industrial hemp is apparently leading the charge there. CBD is probably going to make its way fully into a lot of the makeup industry, as well as a lot of good skin benefits to that as well. So anyways, just thinking out loud, but cool to see Japan actually getting their head out of the sand as well and realizing the potential here. So lastly, folks, we've got this one from New Cannabis Ventures, just highlighting what this industry can do despite having both hands tied behind their backs and no help from Congress whatsoever, and paying 280E to the federal government, effectively working for the federal government, yet they can still manage to put these numbers up. If any other industry in the US did this and faced the discrimination, there'd be outrage and protests and it would be resolved. And the fact that cannabis hasn't highlights how effective the plant really is and why industries and certain groups lobby so hard to keep it illegal. And I do genuinely believe we're at a tipping point thanks to the state-led growth story and the fact that the American Constitution, thank God, highlights that states' rights supersede federal rights. So of course the announcement we're all waiting on about Schedule 3 is essentially that, ending the federal overhang and giving states' rights back. So as long as we can get that, and I mean, hey, we don't know what it was even in that letter as it was redacted. So that's the troubling part. But all we know is that Americans want to vote for legal cannabis with their dollars based on these numbers. And anyone talking fundamentals or why I'm not talking about Canadian companies, look at this, what you can choose from American MSOs. And then look at Tilray, the next best Canadian company in here, $70.3 US for cannabis sales alone. And so, yeah, that's why I'm not necessarily telling anyone that Tilray is a good investment based on their potential growth of cannabis sales, because they sell to the Canadian market. Hey, if Germany opens up for a legal adult use market, which they're not going to, then you might want to consider Tilray. But all that to say, just thinking out loud, folks, I know you're here because you see the same thing that I see, but once we finally get that announcement, the 280E federal hang should be removed, pending all things go according to plan based on all the rumors we're hearing and the momentum and all the headlines. But Ultimately, we don't know. So plan accordingly for your own situation. And that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you next week for This Week in Cannabis News.